This story is about betrayal, but not just the one between a husband and wife. It's about the kind of betrayal that runs deeper, the kind that comes from the people you consider family. It's a story about a man who thought he had it all, only to discover that the people he trusted most were orchestrating his downfall right under his nose. My name is Connor, and at 34 years old, I believed my life was a perfect picture of suburban bliss. My wife Natasha and I had been married for 6 years, living in a beautifully renovated craftsman house with our 2 golden retrievers. But the real treasure in my life was my mother-in-law, Patricia. She was the polar opposite of every mother-in-law stereotype. She was warm, kind, and from the moment I got engaged to Natasha, she treated me like her own son. She'd invite me to lunch, ask my opinion on everything, and always made me feel like I was a cherished part of the family. Our Sunday dinners at Patricia's house were a sacred tradition. We'd cook, I'd fix things around the house, and we'd laugh and talk for hours. Patricia would often joke that I was her favorite child, and it made me feel like I'd won the family lottery. However, about a year ago, cracks began to show in my perfect world. Natasha became distant. She worked late constantly. Her phone was always glued to her hand, and she'd get defensive when I asked about her day. All the classic signs were there, but I ignored them. I trusted her completely, and I was convinced that whatever was going on, we'd get through it. During this time, my bond with Patricia grew even stronger. I confided in her about my fears and suspicions, and she would listen, offering what I thought was wise advice. She told me that marriages have tough patches, and that Natasha was probably just stressed. She was my confidant, the one person who kept me sane. Then came the surprise trip home. I was supposed to be gone until Thursday for a business trip, but my meetings ended early, and I caught a flight home on a Tuesday night. I wanted to surprise Natasha, maybe take her out to dinner. Instead, I found her car gone and the house empty. The strange part? There were 2 wine glasses on the counter, still wet, and the bed was unmistakably unmade in a way that suggested company. When I called Natasha, she said she was at her sister's house, but her voice was rushed and off. When she finally came home, a palpable guilt hung in the air. I knew something was wrong. The cracks become chasms. The next Sunday, I went to Patricia's house alone and decided to talk to her about what I'd found. She listened with genuine concern, nodding sympathetically as I described the wine glasses and Natasha's strange behavior. She told me she had noticed Natasha seemed distracted lately too, and offered a piece of advice that at the time seemed thoughtful. Sometimes women need space to figure things out. Maybe don't push too hard right now. But her words began to echo in my head over the next few weeks as I started noticing inconsistencies. Patricia would occasionally reference things about Natasha's schedule that I didn't know. She once mentioned Natasha was working late before I had even told her. Another time, she mentioned a restaurant that Natasha had told me she had eaten at her desk. The small details began to add up, and the unsettling feeling in my gut became a full-blown alarm. My mental health was deteriorating from all the uncertainty, so in May I decided to hire a private investigator. Within 2 weeks, I had a detailed report and photographs. The truth was worse than I had imagined. Natasha was having an affair with a co-worker named Trevor. They met at hotels, his apartment, and, most shockingly, at Patricia's house. The investigator showed me photos of Natasha and Trevor entering her mother's home together, holding hands and kissing on the front steps. My world shattered. How could Patricia, the woman I trusted, the woman who called me her son, sit across from me every Sunday and listen to me pour out my heart while she was enabling my wife's affair? The photos and timestamps were undeniable. They had been at her house multiple times, staying for hours with her car clearly in the driveway. That night, I confronted Natasha. She broke down and confessed everything. The affair had been going on for 8 months, and she wanted a divorce. When I asked her about Patricia's involvement, she panicked and lied, claiming her mother knew nothing. I laughed. It was a hollow, bitter laugh. I showed her the photos, and even in the face of my evidence, she continued to lie to protect her mother, claiming they had used a spare key without her knowledge. The ultimate betrayal. The next Sunday, I went to Patricia's house alone. Natasha was too emotional to come. I decided to test Patricia to see how far her performance would go. I told her that Natasha had confessed to the affair, that I was devastated, and that I was filing for divorce. Her reaction was Oscar-worthy. She gasped, hugged me, and told me she couldn't believe it. She said she was so disappointed in her daughter and that I would always be family to her. She even offered to talk to Natasha, to try to get her to go to counseling with me. But she didn't know I was recording our entire conversation on my phone. Then she made a mistake. She got a phone call during dinner and stepped into the kitchen. I could hear her side of the conversation clearly. She was talking to someone about keeping me calm until the divorce papers were ready and about making sure I didn't get suspicious about the house meetings. When she came back, I asked who had called, and she smoothly lied, saying it was her doctor. I went home and listened to the recording repeatedly. It wasn't just about my wife's affair anymore. It was about Patricia's active role in it. Every piece of advice she had given me, every moment of fake sympathy, was a calculated act to keep me passive and unsuspecting while they planned my wife's exit. Over the next month, I built my case. I hired a top-tier divorce attorney and gathered all the evidence. My attorney discovered that Patricia had been far more involved than I had imagined. She had co-signed a lease for Natasha and Trevor's new apartment, helped them hide money, and even given them her old car to help them keep their affair a secret. The divorce proceedings began in August. Natasha's attorney tried to paint me as controlling and emotionally abusive, a classic victim-blaming strategy. They wanted spousal support and half of everything, including the house I had inherited. Patricia even showed up to the first mediation session, sitting behind her daughter and audibly gasping when my attorney presented evidence of the affair. Her performance solidified my resolve. I wanted to destroy her completely. My attorney requested a formal hearing before a judge. We subpoenaed Patricia's phone records and bank statements and called her to testify. On the stand, under oath, she calmly lied, stating she had no knowledge of the affair until I told her about it, and that she never did anything to help or enable her daughter's infidelity. She was a convincing and confident witness. Then, my attorney played the recording. The courtroom heard Patricia's voice discussing keeping me calm and coordinating the house meetings. My attorney then presented the photographs of Natasha and Trevor at Patricia's house, the co-signed lease, and the financial and phone records proving her involvement. Patricia's composure broke. She started sobbing, admitting to everything. She said she only wanted her daughter to be happy, that she saw how miserable Natasha was, and she was just trying to help her. The judge, furious about the perjury, held her in contempt of court, fined her, and ordered her to pay a portion of my attorney fees. Her lies under oath completely destroyed Natasha's credibility, and I was awarded the house, the majority of our assets, and spousal support for 2 years. Patricia's financial support of the affair was considered a dissipation of marital assets, forcing Natasha to reimburse me for everything her mother had spent. The real victory was watching Patricia face the consequences of her deception. She had been so sure of her cleverness, but her lies had created a paper trail that proved conspiracy. The last time I saw her was outside the courthouse. She approached me, crying, and tried to apologize, saying she never meant to hurt me. I looked at the woman who had called me her son and told her the truth. Her betrayal hurt worse than Natasha's because I had trusted her completely. I told her that the recording I had made would always remind me never to trust anyone that completely again. Today, I live in my renovated house with my 2 dogs and a much clearer understanding of human nature. Natasha and Trevor broke up 6 months after the divorce was finalized. It turns out that a relationship built on lies and deceit rarely survives. Patricia still tries to contact me, but I have blocked her on everything. The recording is still on my phone. Sometimes I listen to it to remind myself that people are capable of incredible deception, but mostly, I listen to it to remember that I am capable of fighting back. Trust is a gift. Some people deserve it, and some people weaponize it against you. The trick is learning to tell the difference before they record their own confession.